Why not ramp it up by sinking everything? In today's video, we tally down our top 10 underwater movie battles. This list focuses on movie battle sequences that take place beneath the water's surface. And because genuine is better, we're generally focusing on real actors diving, or real divers performing, not animation. We're in it for the real, hazardous battles beneath the waves. Keep an eye out. To start things off, at number 10 features Amy Sanchez taking on Benny Simpson. Deep Gold, 2011. After the disappearance of her partner, an Air Force pilot who was carrying gold worth millions of dollars, a skilled scuba diver becomes embroiled in a scheme that is fraught with peril and intrigue. This is the most exciting part of the tale. The intensity in this scenario comes from the fact that one of these characters is a trained free diver, while the other is fighting for his life with a gun. Observing these two actors go head-to-head raises a palpable level of excitement. Nonetheless, there can only be one winner below the surface of the water. Next up, we have Expedition Team versus the Gill Man at position 9. Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. Expeditions can be dangerous in an area where a lethal amphibious humanoid monster hides. This is especially important to remember in conditions where oxygen is in short supply. The authenticity of this scenario can be attributed to the work of underwater stuntman Riku Browning, who wholly owns his part as the Gill Man. Browning's performance helped make the sequence look more realistic. After all, dragging individuals while wearing a full-body rubber suit can't be an easy task to accomplish. Browning would sometimes hold his breath for up to 4 minutes at a time, simulating breathing through gills. He would not allow any air bubbles to escape during this time. The risk pays off in this scene, which displays a member of the expedition crew meeting face-to-face with the beast that is the inspiration for the name of this trip. Ranked at number 8, LTJG Dale Hawkins versus Ben Shahid, Navy SEALs, 1990. An unexpected death struggle, particularly one being fought to retrieve some missiles from a dangerous terrorist gang, is one of the best ways to get your heart racing and your adrenaline pumping. There is simply no better way. This underwater scene is among the best because of the precision of the camera work, but the violence serves to cement its position in the canon of greatness. This fight is so well coordinated and choreographed that it doesn't even need to take place underwater for it to be interesting. It's just as violent as a fight that takes place on dry land. The first move these guys make is a roll, followed by a drag, a strangle, and a stab. As a result of the fact that they are Navy SEALs, they are not in the least bit hampered by the water, nor should they be. The next fight will be between Nick Rivers and Nigel the Torch. Top Secret, 1984, came in at number 7 on the list. This one involves what is quite possibly the first and only underwater barroom brawl, and it takes place in a Western saloon furnished with comfortable chairs, chandeliers, and cowboy hats. It is irrational and unforeseen, but now that I think about it, it is not as unreasonable as it seemed at the time, because this movie parodies various genres of films. On the one hand, after you get beyond the random insanity, you can see that it is a combat scenario that is reasonably competent. This scenario lends itself perfectly to the tactic of knocking your opponent off his feet before finishing the takedown with a punch that seems like a cartoon character faked out. Next up, at position 6, is Ned Land taking on Giant Squid, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 1954. Finding a well-known conflict taking place beneath the seas in a movie whose ultimate purpose is to discover the identity of the mysterious sea monster shouldn't come as much of a surprise to the audience. When the electrical charges are not successful in stopping the enormous squid from attacking, the creature swims to the surface, and this is when the most dramatic phase of the fight begins. The initial assault will be launched from the ocean's depths in this scenario. To create the tensest and most epic version possible of this time-consuming, expensive scenario, it was shot not once, but twice. In our perspective, the fight/ rescue that Kirk Douglas was involved in was more than worth it because of his ability to use his harpoon and underwater tentacle skills. After that, we will see James Bond face off against Dr. Kananga, Live and Let Die, 1973 at number 5. A confrontation between James Bond and his most recent foe, Dr. Kananga, can be seen in this excerpt. The fact that the tape does not finish precisely how we anticipate it will, nevertheless, is one of the primary factors contributing to the enjoyable nature of the experience. When people go into shark tanks, they usually end up being eaten alive by the sharks, rather than being turned into human hot air balloons and exploding on the ceiling like a firecracker in a piñata, by being forced to be fed shark gun pellets against their will. This is because sharks have a stronger sense of smell than humans, and can smell blood, in a way only Bond can pull off. 007's closing one-liner is a suitable finale to the entire action sequence. Next up, Chan Kakui vs. Henchmen. The number 4 spot was taken by the 1996 film Police Story 4: First Strike. Jackie Chan plays the role of a Hong Kong police officer looking into the location of an infamous arms dealer in this action-packed movie. This leads him to an aquarium, where he takes part in one of the fight sequences that is both the longest and the funniest to take place underwater. This illustrates that diluting the enjoyment of Jackie Chan movies with water does not have the desired effect. When you consider that the underwater handicap reduces the force of each punch and kick, the martial arts skills are of the greatest grade, the visual gags are hilarious, and the choreography becomes even more astounding. In addition to it, there is a shooting and a stabbing that takes place. Besides that, is there anything else that you could want? Next up, James Bond faces up against Gunman. Skyfall 2012, ranked at number 3. This one is not only submerged below the surface of the water, but is also covered in ice. After leading the great villain Raul Silva and his men to the location in Scotland where 007 spent his youth, the secret agent is compelled to fight them off to protect his master M from the vengeful intentions of Raul Silva and his men. The location in question is where 007 spent his youth, and when the undercover agent recognizes that the situation is getting out of control, he decides to try to get things back under control by calming everyone down. But as if fending off an armed aide while submerged wasn't already a difficult enough task, Bond is next faced with the question of how one may get out of this scenario. After that, the kaiju face off against the Jaegers. Pacific Rim 2013 is now ranked number 2. We had every intention of eliminating all of the aliens and CGI. Still, we were forced to make an exception because robot combat at the bottom of the ocean had never been depicted in such an unexpected manner, if they had ever been depicted at all. When all these terrifying creatures are confronted by the countries that border the Pacific Ocean using their human-operated weapons of mass destruction, the ocean is subjected to the maximum amount of harm it can withstand. But the destruction takes on a much more serious tone as the planet is confronted by the greatest kaiju it has ever seen. This is the most catastrophic event that has ever occurred on this planet. Finally, at number 1, Martin Riggs versus Hua Seng-ku. The phrase Lethal Weapon 4, 1998. There is a storm raging outside, and the night is quite black. After leaving the Chinese triad, Riggs and Murtaugh followed the trail their target had left to arrive at a pier. And because the Chinese triad has its sights set on Jet Li, you should already be aware that someone on 2 will be kicking each other's asses above water. However, the game changes when the ground falls beneath their feet and Jet Li and Mel Gibson are swept into the water. At this point, you no longer feel sorry for the officers for getting their asses smacked to them because the ground has collapsed beneath their feet. Because they are getting their asses handed to them, you no longer feel sorry for the police officers. This villain is unaffected by efforts to stab him, choke him, impale him, or drown him. However, when automatic weapon fire is exchanged, he becomes agitated. Our video for today ends here. Thank you for watching. We sincerely hope that you cherished and appreciated it. Before you leave, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future posts similar to this one. We appreciate you watching.